want to thank you all. I want to thank Silver Spring Village and Silver Spring Town Center for having me. And I am very excited, to have this opportunity to speak with you virtually, because when I spoke there in Silver Spring, it was so much fun and such an engaging audience. So I'm going to invite you to be an engaging audience today as well, and use the chat. I'm going to be encouraging you with prompts to put answers to questions in the chat. And then at the end, we will have some time for Q&A. But right now, I want to start with just a little centering exercise. And I know that you probably had a lot going on today and you had to make time to get here. So I want you to honor yourself for making this time to give your attention to creating joy in your home, in your space. And if it's possible, if you're in a safe place, just allow your eyes to close. And we'll just begin with some slow, deep breaths. And if you're able to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And on the next breath, you might play around with lengthening the out breath, because that helps to calm the nervous system. We'll take one more slow, deep breath together, letting go of everything you had to do to get here and everything you need to do when you're done, and just giving yourself this time, this short time, to focus on something that's important to you. I want to invite you to enter your home in your mind just the way you usually do, through whatever door you usually come in, and intuitively, without overthinking it, I want you to just, in your mind, go to the room or space in your home that is calling for your attention. Just don't think about it, just go. What room is calling for your attention? Pause at the entrance to that space and ask yourself, how do I want to feel in this space? And again, just let whatever word pops up, that could be productive, happy, relaxed. And then I want you to take that feeling that you want to feel in that room and just let it sink into your whole body, from your head all the way down to your toes. Imagine yourself in that room, feeling that feeling, just overflowing with that feeling. And now look around in your mind and identify one thing in that room which supports that feeling that you're longing for. You might have to look hard. And if you don't find anything, then imagine, what do you need to bring into that room so that it will immediately spark joy when you walk into it. And know that you have within you the wisdom and the power to make changes in your home. And sometimes you just need a little help tapping into that inner knowing that we all have. But you can do this exercise as many times as you like, with as many rooms as you like, and tap into what sparks joy for me. Now just take one more slow, deep breath and come back into our circle. And feel free to share in the chat which room you were drawn to during the centering exercise. and how you want to feel in that room. So in our time together today, we're going to explore more ways to bring joy and ease into your daily life by bringing your space into alignment with your desires and your vision, which is what we were just getting in touch with. What's your vision for this particular space? James Clear, in his best-selling book, Atomic Habits, says, a stable environment where everything has a place and a purpose is an environment where habits can easily form. I'm going to read that one more time, and then I'm going to ask you to type yes or no, whether you agree with that statement or not. A stable environment where everything has a place and a purpose is an environment where habits can easily form. Just type yes or no, agree, disagree. Why am I talking about habits anyway? That's not what we're supposed to be talking about today. Well, can anybody guess? I believe that the real secret to creating a home that will spark joy not just today and tomorrow, but for months and years to come, lies in creating new productive habits to support the changes that you make in your space. And the good news about habits is once you have a new habit, like you brush your teeth, you lock your car, whatever your other good habits are, you put your keys in the same place, you don't have to think about it. It just happens automatically. The bad news is if you have habits that are not so helpful, not so productive, it can take real intentionality and time and focus to change those habits. But it is only by creating new productive habits that you will ultimately have the life and home of your dreams. If you've ever gone on a major decluttering spree only to find that the clutter reappears just as quickly or even more quickly than it was removed, then you may understand why I say this. So we're not going to be able to get deeply into this fascinating idea of creating new habits as a way to maintain a joyful home in the short time we have together. But if you know that creating new habits is what you need, then do reach out to me to discuss some of the ways that I can support you in that. The phrase spark joy comes from Marie Kondo, who you've most likely heard about unless you've been living under a rock, because of her best-selling book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, The Japanese Art of Decluttering and Organizing. And then she really came into prominence with her recent Netflix show. So in her KonMari method, she recommends that in order to declutter your home or edit your possessions, you should hold each object in your hand and ask yourself, does this spark joy? So what do you think? Have any of you tried this method? And if so, did it work for you? Please share your answers in the chat. I'm going to go pop that in the chat, that question. So here's Charlotte says she has recently read the book and has made some progress. So yay for that. And some agreement on the habit thing here. So, you know, I've been listening to the book Spark Joy on audiobook, and what I noticed that I liked was that in addition to talking about decluttering or editing, which is, you know, something that I'm very passionate about, she also encourages you to think about adding things that spark joy or just creating environments that spark joy. And when she talked about, when I listened to the section about kitchens, she talked about making things easy to clean. And so I realized that I had a lot of things on my kitchen counters that were making it really hard for me to clean. And I'm also very aware that I love it. I really love it when my counters are clean. It sparks joy for me. So I've just actually in the last couple of days been working on putting things away from my counters because having a clear countertop sparks joy for me. Some other things that spark joy for me are having a scent or a fragrance in the room. And I know some people have allergies, but I like to just use water and lemon oil, lemon essential oil to clean with. And then it makes cleaning more fun and more joyful. So I want to encourage you over the next couple of weeks to pay attention to what is happening in your home that does already spark joy for you, because then you can build on that. You know, you can say, well, if I like the way this room feels, then maybe I can bring some of that into this other space, which I feel sort of heavy and dull when I'm in it. So if you had, I want you to invite you to think about this. If you had to get out of your home quickly and you were not sure when you were going to be able to come back, what, besides your financial records, your pets, and your children, what would you grab? So just think about that for a minute. And whatever comes to your mind there, what you would think about grabbing. And for a lot of people, it might be precious family photos or things like that. Those are most likely your treasures. And I want to invite you to share some of your treasures in the chat. And I do have a blog post about this, about treasures, starting with your treasures. And I definitely think it's the way to go. I mean, you can go into your closet and say, what can I get rid of? But if you begin by saying, what do I love? What do I really want to wear? What do I always wear? Which is usually about 20% of what we own that we use or wear. Then first of all, it's more fun that way. And then it puts everything else in perspective. Well, if I only wear these 2 black dresses, then what the heck is happening with these other 4? You know, maybe I could let go of those and give them to somebody for whom they spark joy. So if you can think of things that make you feel happy, like a clear surface or a sparkling bathroom, or sometimes a pleasant scent or aroma can bring joy into a room for you. Feel free to share those in the chat. And if nothing comes to you now, I just encourage you to think about it over the next couple of days and weeks. And you might want to think about having a journal. In my classes, my students usually create a decluttering journal, but you can create one of your own, and it doesn't have to be a leather-bound fancy journal. It can be a child's composition book, or if you already have a journal and you journal regularly, you can just use that to also capture these things that I'm going to encourage you to be thinking about. And the first, as I said before, is to notice things that you love, notice things that spark joy, and notice things that work so that you can build on that. And then you're going to also want to notice your self-talk. And are you always saying to yourself, I should do this, I ought to do this? You know, that's not really going to make you feel like you want to do it. So I would encourage that if you notice that you consider changing the word should to could. Well, I could do this. I could clear off that counter. I could declutter my closet. And I think you'll find that there's a very different energy to those words. And when I speak about energy, I want to share with you a little bit about the energy of stuff and the energy of clutter. And some of you may be familiar with Feng Shui. And Feng Shui can be very complex, but to me, Feng Shui is basically the flow of energy through your home. And you can tell, you don't have to be trained in classical Chinese Feng Shui in order to know when there's stuck energy in your home. Maybe you haven't been paying attention to it. Maybe you've been sort of ignoring things and pushing it down. But if you bring more mindfulness to it, I think you will know where things are blocked. And those may be the places that you want to start with your editing or decluttering. But know that, as Jiminy Cricket says, when your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. So as long as you have that vision, you have clarity about your vision and why you're doing this, you can do it. Will it take time? Yes, of course it will take time. The clutter didn't get there overnight. It's not going to disappear overnight. But if you're committed, you will make progress. So some of the challenges to creating a joy-filled home, and there's 7 that I've identified. And if you have others that you want to share as we go along, feel free to do that in the chat. But the first is not being clear on your why or your vision. You know, you're not going to create a joy-filled home if you don't know what that feels like or looks like for you. And your ideas may change as you go along. They probably will. And it's important to notice whether your tastes have changed or the things that you use have changed, and honor those differences in your life right now. Or perhaps you're noticing that you're working too hard to find things when you need them, or you're making purchases only to find out that you had plenty of that already. So you can save time and frustration and money by organizing your home in a way that brings you joy. So if you're clear on your why, if you know why you want to declutter, go ahead and share that in the chat and make yourself accountable for that. Maybe you want to make space to follow a passion. Maybe you want to sew or knit or exercise. And a lot of us have had to make changes in our homes in this wacky 2020 and still continuing into 2021. I have a lot of clients and workshop participants who are making home gyms now. And so they're very motivated to clean up their basements. And then some of you may be schooling your children at home. Some of you may have partners or spouses who have brought their office into their home. So there's been lots more reasons recently to have to make changes in your home than I think we've had in quite some time. And that can make it more frustrating and also more motivating. So become more aware of the energetic effects of clutter. Notice where things are not flowing in your home and address it as best you can. But another challenge to creating a joy-filled home can be perfectionism. So if you're looking for the perfect tool, the perfect box to put something in, or the perfect place to donate things that you no longer love or use, then do your best and make it better later. Another challenge to creating a joy-filled home is not acknowledging and honoring the feelings and the old beliefs that can often get stirred up when you make changes in your space. And first, I'm going to tell you that if you go to address an area of clutter that's been there for quite some time and you feel overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, you're not alone. And there's nothing wrong with you, because that clutter represents dead energy. And it takes some real effort on your part to get going with that. But once you begin to release objects, beliefs, thought patterns that no longer serve you, then you will free up energy. And once you free up some of your energy, then you will have energy not only to do more decluttering and organizing, but to pick up a new hobby, to create a new relationship. You know, it's your life force energy that's tied up in that stuff. So if you imagine little tiny strands of your energy going to each and everything in your home, in your car, in your purse, if those strands are to things that you love, to things that spark joy, then that's great. They're lifting your spirits. If, however, those little strands are tied to things that you no longer love or things that you have negative feelings about, then they are not supporting you at all. And the quicker you can give them to someone else who can appreciate them, the better off you'll be. The other challenge that a lot of people report to me is, what if the things that you treasure, the things that spark joy for you, are different from the things that others in your household think are important? Now, again, this could be a workshop all on its own, how to deal with other people's clutter. And I do have a very affordable ebook on called All in the Family, Clutter in Your Primary Relationships, which you're welcome to pick up if that's an issue for you. But I'm going to share just a couple of things because this is a question that comes up in almost every workshop that I do. First, my first suggestion is, if other people's clutter bothers you, begin to notice things that that other person in your household does that you appreciate. Begin to notice the ways that they do help, and begin with your own stuff. You may think that everything that's creating a problem in your home is somebody else's clutter, but if you look carefully and if you're honest with yourself, you will probably find that you are also contributing in some way. And clutter attracts clutter. So begin with your own stuff. Do it joyfully. If you do it and all the time you're thinking, why is no one helping me? Why am I the only one who ever does anything in this house? Then no one is going to be energetically drawn to support you. You get that? However, if you are joyfully moving around your home and making changes, and people can see how much it's lifting your spirits, then they may want to join in. Another thing that a lot of people get stuck on is inherited items. So if you have inherited items and you wish to be a good steward of those items, which is a noble thing, noble way to feel, and you may have been made to feel that by the people who gave them to you. But if you have inherited something that does not spark joy for you, even though it may have for the person who gave it to you, then thank those objects and send them on their way to someone who can love and appreciate them. And that person who gave it to you, if they love you, they're going to want you to be happy. And if letting go of something that bothers you physically, it's mind clutter, it's emotional clutter, if letting go of it makes you happy, then I would hope that the person who gave it to you would want that for you. So the last one is, I might need it someday. Now, I have been guilty of this, and a lot of us have parents and grandparents who lived through the Great Depression. And, I know when I spent time with my grandmother, we washed every piece of tinfoil, folded it up neatly, used it over again. And now people, and a lot of my clients, are very environmentally conscious. And so they want to recycle and use things until they're done. So there's a lot of good reasons to pay attention to how you dispose of things. And sometimes there's only so much you can do. And, I worked with another woman one time who was a zero waste person. And she said something which really just opened my eyes. And that is that this thing that you're being responsible for and you're trying to find the exact right way to recycle or get rid of, eventually it's going to go in the landfill anyway. No matter what you do, no matter how long you hold on to it, eventually it's going to end up in the same place. So the question is, do you want it influencing your life? And I'm not saying don't be responsible, and I have resources on my website for how to donate all kinds of things. But I guess I got a little off of the topic of fear. But in terms of the I might need it someday, sometimes that comes from a lack of trust in yourself and in the universe to be able to provide you with what you need. So if you think that's true for you, then you might just want to look a little deeper at those thoughts and think, do I want to be thinking thoughts of lack or scarcity, or do I want to trust and believe that my needs will be provided for? So before I share my 5 expert strategies for decluttering success, and I think if I have time, I'll offer a short review of these 7 potential pitfalls. I'm gonna at the end of the talk, I'm gonna post a link to grab a free copy of my step-by-step guide to mindful decluttering. It's one of my most popular resources. And that will also subscribe you to our monthly newsletter, some of our best tips for decluttering, organizing, and time awareness. And also in that PDF is a special discount code for an offer that I want to make to those of you who have participated in today's workshop. And this special offer is going to entitle you to 50% off of something that's a new product for me, and it's called Decluttering Days. And what you do is you jump on a Zoom, you set your intention for the day, you spend about 4 hours working towards your goals, and then we jump back on the Zoom and you share how you did. And doing this in a small community of other people who are doing the same thing on the same day, people really say that they can feel the energy of working with others, even though they're in a different space. And they know that they're going to be held accountable at the end of the day, which can be very helpful. But so if you are very self-motivated and you just need steps and tips, then the step-by-step guide may be all that you need. But what if lack of motivation is part of the problem, or not knowing where to start, things like that? That's when the decluttering days can really help you to make time to do it, to get around to it. You know, that get around to it term. So I'll tell you more about those, and they're normally $40 a day, and before Saturday, January 17th, you can go to the shop and use the discount code Get It Done 50 for 50% off of up to 4 decluttering days. And I will pop that in the chat now, and then probably again at the beginning, or at the end. The shop's really easy to find. You just go to clutterfreenow.com and it says shop up at the top. But if you have any trouble finding it, or if you're having trouble with the code, let me know. And those who purchase 4 decluttering days today will also be entered into a drawing for a free copy of Atomic Habits, which I mentioned before, or Spark Joy by Marie Kondo. So you can make your choice, and I'll send you a copy of one of those books as a thank you for making fast decision. So now on to some strategies for success. Start with the easy stuff. Now, Marie Kondo recommends that you start with clothes. For some of you, that may be the easy stuff. For others, it may not. But certainly, it's easier to tell whether a blouse or a dress or a pair of pants sparks joy than it is to tell whether a kitchen implement sparks joy. So I get what she's going for, you know, pick something where you can figure out how to determine what joy feels like. I call it building, you know, strengthening your decluttering muscles. So start with something that's easy, build up your decluttering muscles so that when you get to the hard stuff, you already have the strength to do it. You already know what you're doing. So the next tip, I have 5 tips here. Break overwhelming tasks into manageable projects. So people often get stymied in a garage or a basement because it's just too much stuff. And I totally get it. So one thing you can do is you can just go around the room with your digital camera. And when I do that, I definitely notice pockets of things that could be broken down into individual projects. And then you will be able to, sorry, I got distracted by the fact that this timer's about to go off, so I'm going to give us a little more time. Breaking things into manageable chunks is going to make it much easier. Then you can feel completion at the end of a project. Let's say if you're in a garage, you just tackle the tools. And then next you tackle the old baby clothes that you've been keeping for those grandchildren that may never come. And create regular times to tidy, or that's Marie Kondo's term, or keep your house in order. And some people find it really useful to have regular times or rhythms or rituals to make tidying more joyful. You might want to light a candle, open a window, turn on a ceiling fan to get the energy moving while you're decluttering. And some of these will be covered in that PDF. And be very mindful of your time and your energy. Make sure that you don't work for 4 hours straight without taking a break, having a sip of water, stretching, changing your position. I suggest that you work for no more than an hour at a time without taking a short break. You know, you can come right back to it, and it's helpful to write down where you left off so that when you come back to the project, you're not like, oh my God, I have to start all over again. I don't even remember where I left off. So that's a tip I learned from one of my clients years ago. Just write down what would be my next action step when I come back to the project. And you can use your decluttering journal for that, or anything, you know, that works for you. And get support when you need it. If you've been struggling with this for quite some time, you might think, but it's going to take too much time to do it. The time is going to pass anyway. Whether you are creating a home that sparks joy or not, the time will continue to pass. Mastering clutter and creating a home that sparks joy requires making many small daily choices and recognizing that every choice has a consequence. Every time you put something down where it doesn't belong, there's a consequence to that. And the most common consequence is so much of it piles up that you just don't want to deal with it anymore because it's a big old energy suck. So be more mindful of your daily habits and choices, but know that your current environment reflects your past choices, and you can make a different choice starting right now. You can decide to hang up that coat or put that dirty laundry where it goes. And it's sometimes helpful to notice how long things take. Like I used to avoid emptying our dishwasher, and then the dishes would collect in the sink. So finally, this became such a problem that I thought, I'm just going to time this. It took 5 minutes. It took me 5 minutes to empty that stupid dishwasher. And so now when I don't want to empty the dishwasher, and what's that about anyway? I just say it's going to take 5 minutes, Pam. And so now I don't procrastinate. There's so many things we could talk about. Procrastination is one of them, but no time. But so what I would like to invite you to do now is consider choices that you've made in the past that have allowed clutter to creep in or accumulate. And you can share if you like. If you don't want to share, just think about what is one different choice that you can commit to today. If you take away nothing else from this workshop, just notice your habits, notice the choices you're making, and try to find one that you can improve on. All right, so I'm dying to look at the chat, but I'm gonna just pop this question in there. Oops, that's not everyone. Let's go to everyone. All right, what is one different choice that you can commit to today? All right, so I'm getting ready to wrap up here, and I want to offer another exercise. I know I've thrown a lot at you, but I want to offer another opportunity to just pause and center and reflect. And then I'm going to invite you to share what are your takeaways from today. Like maybe you heard it before, but you heard it today in a different way, or you just had a personal awareness of something you could change. That's what I'd love to hear. And, you can share it in the chat, or you can share it verbally when when we're in the Q&A period. But so be reflecting on that as I take you through this other short exercise. What are the nuggets that you'll carry with you as you begin your new relationship with your space, with the intention of creating joy, of sparking more joy? So as before, put down everything that you might have been writing on and allow your eyes to close. Imagine yourself in front of a closed door. You know that on the other side of that door is the life and home that you have been envisioning, that you've been longing for. But you notice that your hands are just full of stuff, and you can't open the door with your hands full of stuff. This might be physical stuff. It might be old thought patterns, beliefs that are holding you back. But in order to move into this next joyful chapter of your life, in your space, what are you going to need to let go of? And if answers don't come to you right now, not to worry. It may come to you, things like this come to me at 4:30 in the morning usually. But think about that. What are things that may be keeping me from moving into the next joyful chapter of my life? Knowing that you can't move forward into the home and life of your vision without letting go of something, reflect on what objects and beliefs you wish to carry with you. And then you may notice some that feel like a burden and can be discarded easily or passed on to someone else. So remaining open and curious, take this question with you into the coming week. noticing thoughts, beliefs, and objects that bring you joy, and giving them a special place in your home. The treasures don't belong in a box in the attic. The treasures need to be out where you can appreciate them. So take 2 more slow, deep breaths, and then open your eyes and come back into the room. Thank you so much for taking the time to focus your attention on ways to spark joy in your home. And now I'll take some questions or feedback.
Thanks so much, Pam. And if anyone has a question, please either use the raise hand feature, or you can also just go like this, and you'll need yourself.
Let's see. I'm getting into gallery view so I can see if I see any raised hands. I guess those of you who don't have your video on, you know, there is a raise hand function. You go to participants and click on your name and raise a little blue hand there.
So we have
I had put a question in the chat to repeat the name of the book that you're listening to audio.
Oh, Marie Kondo's book. Yeah, I can put that in the chat. It's the one I'm listening to is Spark Joy, and you know, her bestseller is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I was surprised to find I looked at Amazon the other day, and Spark Joy apparently is not a bestseller yet, but I actually like it better. I like it better than the first book. And
how are you spelling that author's last name?
I'm going to put it in the chat for you.
Thank you.
And we have a question from Yolanda, if you would like to unmute.
All right. Hi, how are you? That was very interesting. I learned a lot today.
Great.
One of the question you asked at the end, what do I need to let go of?
Yes.
And the thing that came to me was the past, the sentimental part of me. And I say that because I have a basement. I'm the one who inherited all the family stuff, grandfathers, aunts, mom. And I took it because I like it, and I like to be reminded of them. And so recently I began sorting some of it with the idea of, well, I can get rid of some of these things. However, can you see me? Oh, hello?
We can.
Video is off.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can see you. Well, I can't see you now. I could see you a minute ago.
Well, I'll come back on in a second.
That's okay. I can hear you.
Somehow. So anyway, so I started going through some of these things, and with the idea of, okay, I'll get rid of them because a lot of them are antiques. But and so I said, okay, I'll keep some, get rid of some, but I'm having problems getting rid of. I want to keep too many. That's the thing. So, because they're very sentimental, they remind me of growing up and my grandfather and things we had around the house then. So, I don't want to let go.
Yeah, I understand. Well, here's what I'm going to suggest, Yolanda, to start with, and I'm sure there's others who have that question as well. You know, look for the ones that you really, really, really treasure that are representative, a few items that are representative of the essence of that person that you want to remember. And you might consider making a little altar or a special shelf in your home. I did this, my mom passed away a couple years ago. So I just have a little tiny table which has things that remind me of her. But, you know, I don't need to keep absolutely everything from her home.
Why not?
In order, well, Yolanda, if those
I
things
know.
bring you joy, then keep them. Keep them.
No, I
want to
but
see
it's
if
too
anybody
much.
else has questions.
It's too much though to keep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a journey, and give yourself time, be gentle with yourself, and baby steps, and until you get to where you want to be. You might think about, what would I do with this space if all these things were not here? What might I want to do with this space? Get to that vision. Thank you for your question.
Good.
So Pam, we also had a question in the chat. Someone asked if you could just quickly go through just sort of a bullet point of your 7 challenges.
Yeah. I'm also going to put, I saw that somebody had asked me reminded me to put the link, and thank you for that, whoever that was. I wanted to put the link to grab the PDF. So I've just done that. Okay. And I'm sorry, now remind me what the other thing was I was supposed to do.
Just a quick listing of 7 challenges.
Oh yeah, the 7 things. Yes. Okay, here they are. You're not clear on your why or your vision. You're not aware of the energetic effects of the things in your home and in your life. You're not acknowledging and honoring feelings and old beliefs that get stirred up when you make changes in your space. Perfectionism, I would put it in the chat, but I know you can't put this much stuff in the chat because I've tried it before. Things that you treasure are different from the things that others in your household treasure. That's a challenge for many people. And inherited items. Those are often very challenging because, as Yolanda mentioned, there's a lot of emotions and memories associated with them. And, you know, those people in your life that you have fond memories of, you're going to still have those memories, whether you keep the stuff or not. If keeping the stuff, if you have room to keep the stuff, you don't need to do anything else in that space, and you're not worried about whoever has to clean up after you having to deal with it, then keep it. Otherwise, you might just take pictures of it and write about why you enjoyed having that item in your home. Everybody's situation is different. Did I see any, are there any other hands up here? I see Ed and Fire Tablet.
Looks like we have Paulette.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much. And I had put in the chat, I have a zoo full of paper tigers. And I have started going through things because I just got so, you know, it just got overwhelming. So I had started, you know, actually throwing some things away. And now that you can't do like you did in the old days and put your stuff in the trash and be able to put it to the curb and won't nobody go through it. Now you got to go through it. You've got to take your name off of it or scratch it away and that kind of thing. So that's become frustrating for me. And that tiger it hasn't gotten much worse, but still, because I make a habit now, when I go through the mail, I, you know, go through the mail immediately and I throw away the stuff that I don't want, but still I'm keeping things that I've had for years. You know, so that zoo of paper tigers is still overwhelming to me. And also I was the caretaker for my mother. She died back in 2011. I still have her stuff.
Yeah.
And that's including papers and things that every time I touch it, I get emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And but one good thing, because I come from a large family, I bought legacy boxes.
Yeah.
I bought that for each one of my family members and told them to start sorting their photos, and then we would put them on something, and then we'd be able to share them with each person. So I started that just about 2 weeks ago. And so by the end of the year, we should have all that taken care of
Yeah.
and be able to share that amongst ourselves by doing something. But the, you know, I mean, I'm looking at this paper tigers right now. I just, that's overwhelming to me.
Yes.
And
yes.
and I definitely want to get your 50% off for the 4 hours. And so I'll go on your website for that, or where do I go for that?
Yeah. It's clutterfreenow.com /shop. And you know, I can put that in the chat eventually, I think.
Please do. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Paulette. Yeah, people have made amazing progress with their papers during the decluttering days, and I've also done some Facebook challenges and things like that. And paper is just an issue for a lot of us, particularly of a certain age. So know that you're not alone, Paulette. You're definitely not alone.
It's awful.
I have blog posts about that as well. And I also have a Facebook group where I have lessons on particular things, and paper is one of those.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate, and I've
Sure.
enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you, Doug, for putting the shop in there.
Sure.
Thank you, Doug.
And so, Doug, are you seeing any other hands?
It looks like Patricia.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know we've got Fire Tablet and Ed coming up. Oh, that's Patricia. Okay.
yeah, that's me.
Okay.
So I know I'm not going to do any of those other things that you were having links to, because I only have a Kindle to work with, and you know,
Yeah.
enough already with too much Kindle stuff. So
Yeah.
I can't use that resource. I would really, really appreciate your saying just a few words about the best way to get through with some built up stacks, which actually is better than it used to be, but still, of magazines and newspapers, which I hate throwing out without having looked through them. And I keep procrastinating doing that. I don't know, I'm doing something else. And the same thing with bills. I had to pay my property tax online and do an electronic check for the first time just the other day, because I had forgotten it and it was, you know, past due. Although I did realize they have gone until the end of January now with the due date, which is good. Anyway.
So what you're saying
getting
is
better at it at the front end, and a few tips at getting better with dealing with the clutter, the back end.
well, I'd say the most important thing for everyone in terms of incoming paper and mail is eliminate as much of it as possible. And I have resources on my website for how to get off of all those credit card offers and things like that. So if it doesn't come in, you don't have to deal with it and shred it, right? Okay, but once you've done that, once you've eliminated, and the magazines too, and the catalogs, I mean, if you're not reading them, if you're not doing anything with them, consider getting rid of those subscriptions or getting an online, well, I guess your tablet, you can't do an online subscription. But you know, the only way to get through the paper and the magazines is to sit down and create time to do it. And however, if you have a big backlog, then what I would suggest is that you first sort into very, very broad categories, like just magazines, finances, medical, whatever other categories you have in your life. Those are some common ones. First, do a big, broad sort. Then you sit down with just the magazines and you make decisions about just the magazines. Which ones am I really going to read? Which ones should I just let go of? And then the finances, you know, what needs to be shredded, what needs to be filed. But it sounds like also having an immediate action place or an action place in your home for those things that do need to be tended to, not letting those things stack up, but, you know, having a special place for the bills that need to be paid. Sounds like that might be a good idea as well. Does that help?
I would like to add regarding the magazines, a suggestion that was given to me and it worked perfect. And that was when the magazine comes in, to look through it and choose no more than 3 articles you're interested in reading. Date the articles, put them where you tend to read, bed, chair, whatever. And
Yes.
if a month after the date of the article you haven't read it, it gets pitched.
Awesome. I love that. Was that Sandy? Sandy gave
It
that
was.
suggestion?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. If you're going to keep it, date it and write down why you kept it. But I love the part about pitching it if you haven't read it by a certain time. And I think that could help a lot of people.
Well,
Thank
you were
you.
asking if it helped, and not sure if it does, because what happens is, I think, more a matter of just not going on and doing it. But I do have a tip for those who have a really big pile, because I got rid of a big pile a while back. And it is starting with picking up the top thing on the pile, doing something with that. Don't even think about the other, just do something with that,
Yes,
and it's gone. If that's all you do that day, start there.
that's
Next thing you
perfect.
know, you'll do 4 or 5, and then it took a couple of 3 months, but that pile is gone. And then the next thing is never, ever pile up anything in that space again.
Yes,
Once you cleared
perfect.
it, it has to be sacrosanct. So that's
That's
my
perfect.
tip.
I love that. I love that.
We also had Ed Levy has been patient, and then we've got Jane and Yolanda.
All right, Ed.
Ed, you'll need to unmute.
If we had a nickel for every time we said that, we'd be rich, wouldn't
And how about now? Is that good?
we? Yep, you're good.
Okay. So I was saying, I came in partway through, but I've really enjoyed the part that I've heard. So I've been, I have some serious stacks of paper, and I've been going through them, and I've been throwing out about 80%, and I feel good about that. But then I've got 2 kids who are now 36 and 39, and it occurs to me that they never lived their life on paper.
Yes,
So when the day comes that I won't be here to lovingly look at the papers I saved, I think it'll be 5 minutes in the door, and how big a trash bag can we put them in?
so you're just reflecting on well, several things, but that who are you saving these for? Is that part of the question?
That's part of the question. Well,
Yeah.
I'm saving things that matter to me, and I
Yes.
feel, if I'm getting rid of 80% of it, I feel like it's okay. Whatever's in the 20% is okay.
Yeah. Well, if you think they're not going to agonize over it anyway, they're just going to immediately recycle it. But there is, some of you may have heard of this book about Swedish death cleaning. And she talks about keeping things that are important to you, but that you don't want your heirs to have to think about or struggle with. And I forget what she calls that box, but anyway, that's another thing you can do, is if you have things that, you're just keeping for you, they spark joy or whatever, just identify them so that when you're gone, other people know that they can just toss it.
Sure. And one more question, please. Do you have places that we could go to shred? I've got like 6 grocery bags full of things that need to be shredded now. Where is a good place to take stuff like that?
Are you in DC?
In Montgomery County.
Montgomery County, yeah. I haven't been on top of what's still open during COVID, but you can always just go to Office Depot or Staples and pay by the pound. There are sometimes, I used to be on Montgomery County's text list, but I got off of it since I live in Colorado. But many counties have a way for you to know when they're having electronics and shredding events. Mm-hmm. So Kathleen is saying Montgomery County has free shredding. Yeah, so that's about the best I can do with that. So who's up next?
Jane would be next.
Okay.
Thanks. It's nice to see you again. I'm going to contact you offline because I was a failure at this, but I still have half of my hours left from before you moved. So I'll contact you offline.
Okay. Sounds good.
And Yolanda.
Hi there. Me again. I want to say last year I had an epiphany where I thought about the fact that all the stuff I have that I want to get rid of, I could do it over 20 years of trying to get rid of it, or I could just get rid of it in a year and free myself up.
Uh-huh.
So
That's
that's
wonderful.
what I made a decision to do. This year was dedicated to doing that. And I figured it'd take a year because I got a lot of stuff. I have a life too. So anyway, I did start a little bit on that the last quarter of this past year. One of the things, I went through my clothes and I got rid of a lot, but I decided to keep some of the items in terms of selling them because it would be a way for me to make some money. And I do like selling. My only thing was when you mentioned freeing up my life force, I'm starting to second guess that and think maybe I should forget about the selling of those items because they're nice things and I could make some money, but they will take some of the time.
That's true.
Some time away from cleaning up other stuff. So just want your thoughts on that.
Well, I think you're, headed in the right direction with your thinking. I mean, I have some students, in my most recent course who have had success selling. But I would say that the vast majority of people who have gone to the trouble to sell something have been disappointed at how much they got for it. And it just takes time. So I think the question is, of all the things that you could be doing with your time, of all the things that spark joy for you, is selling old things what you want to spend your time and energy on, and there's no right or wrong answer. but I think for me, it's like just, let it go. I'm just as happy to just let it go because I don't have time to mess with that stuff. But, it's really a personal question. But thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I think you made some really good points. And I'm also going to write down reasons why it will be good to let it go and and the pros and cons and think that through a little harder. So
yeah, that's great. I like that. That's great, Yolanda. Thanks for sharing that.
And it's
somebody's mentioning free cycle. The only downside to free cycle is you may end up wanting to bring things in. So if you can be on free cycle and just get rid of stuff, which I used to do, I do it actually on our neighborhood listserv. We have a very active next door neighborhood listserv, and I just say free and put it out on the curb and people come get it. And if they don't go get it, I just take it to the thrift store.
And I will add, someone just posted something about making donations to a wider circle.
Yes.
The village is hosting a winter clothing drive this Friday between 12:15 and 2:15 in the afternoon. It's going to be in the back parking lot at Grace Episcopal Church, right off Georgia Avenue. And we are collecting men's, women's, and children's coats, hats, gloves, and scarves. And it's completely contactless. We ask that you just have it in the trunk of your car and you drive up, pop the trunk, and we'll grab it out and put it in the bin and off you go. So good way to tidy up your closet and have a warm heart at the same time.
Yeah, and that reminded me of a place that I always liked when I was in Tacoma Park, and that is Shepherd's Table. And they had an outdoor thing that you could put things in. Even before COVID, they had a contactless way for you to put things.
I think Jean is raising her hand. You'll need to unmute Jean.
Or maybe it's still up.
Well, don't forget, Doug, that they don't want clothes on hangers Friday.
Yeah.
They put them in either a paper bag or I've got a plastic bag I'm going to put stuff in. The other thing is that Shepherd's Table, you can push the button and somebody will come to the door and take your items.
Yeah.
What I've done is I've given a lot of things away just to people I know. You know, I've done that with some items in the kitchen, with some other items in my house. And other people, you know, friends of mine say, oh yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to have that. And I've done it with clothes, and then I'm packing up some to go to Goodwill or whoever picks up. You know, and I do definitely separate table and a wider circle are both excellent places.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of people out there that can use what we don't want anymore.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
Paper driven too.
Quick clarification, you want to ring the rightmost doorbell at Shepherd's Table. That goes to the offices.
Pardon?
You want to ring the rightmost doorbell
Yeah, yeah, it's the right
Shepherd's Table.
right. The right.
That goes to the eating place. There
That's
may
right.
even be a third one.
Martine, are they labeled? Do people just need to look at the
No,
label?
not well. No.
Okay.
Right.
One on the right.
Yep.
Yeah, the one on the right. That's all I know.
All right. Okay, good. Thanks for that clarification. All right. Any last minute questions? I actually have a decluttering day today, so I need to be finishing up before too long so that I can celebrate people's successes this afternoon. And the next one will be on Saturday, and then there's one on Thursday the 21st, and there's a whole bunch of them. So if you go for the 4-pack, you will definitely be able to find days between now and March when you can take advantage of it. And a lot of them are on the weekends.
Just one thing for the person who was looking for shredding in Montgomery County. I just followed through. Last week, I heard about a place, free shredding, opens 7 till 2 in Montgomery, 7 a.m. till 2 p.m. in Montgomery County, and it's on South Lawn Drive, and I forget the name of it now, but the bottom line is if they go to Montgomery County Department of Environmental and Health, it is there.
Yeah, great. Great.
Any final questions for Pam before we close?
I was trying to raise my hand, but I didn't succeed. Can I just ask my question?
Sure, absolutely.
I didn't get to hear the whole discussion, but I just wondered if you may have already talked about it, but I wondered if in this session today you had talked at all about, or if you have any thoughts about what the psychiatric field diagnoses as HD. Hoarding disorder. Like, I mean, have you, I know we're talking about decluttering and different people have different degrees of challenge with that, but I wondered if you have any attention or thoughts about specifically people who identify as having an issue with hoarding.
Yeah.
Different from a general decluttering.
Yeah, there definitely is a difference. And, you know, I have worked with some people who are on the lower end of the scale, of the hoarding scale. And there is a hoarding scale that's put out by ICD, the Institute for Challenging Disorganization. It's a scale of 1 to 10. So if you're trying to support someone who you think may be a hoarder, that could be a useful resource. And I think I probably have a link to that in my resources, but otherwise you can pretty easily find it. But, you know, hoarding disorder is a mental diagnosis. It's something that often requires mental health counseling, and not everybody who thinks they have hoarding disorder has hoarding disorder. You know, so speak with a mental health professional, find out whether this is your diagnosis. And in that case, you may want the support of a professional organizer and a therapist or a counselor. I don't know where you were headed with that question, Hillary.
That's a helpful response. I've heard of the, I know less about the Institute for Chronic or for Challenging Disorganization. I think they changed their name and kept their acronym.
Oh, okay.
I know less about them than I do about some of the other folks. I know there's a hoarding clutter scale that was developed by a psychologist at Smith named Randy Frost, who wrote that book, Buried in Treasures,
Right.
which is like the sort of go-to book for the condition. But I appreciate what you're saying. I'll check that scale out on the ICD site. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's good to know that you work with people at least who are on the lower end of that scale, and I definitely appreciate, you know, the sense of responsibility in terms of your wanting to make sure that a person is getting help from the right kind of source.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I had a funny story, a quick story. I had to call the fire department and warn the firemen outside. Now I have so much junk in my house, in my apartment. It's so small, and you know. And then they came in. The fire chief said, "I thought you were a hoarder or something." The way that you described it. So I was relieved that he wasn't really fazed, you know, by my stacks of papers on the desk and a jammed closet. But you know, I think as someone, Greta and Jim asked in the chat, how do you tell the difference between where does it become hoarding? I've known of stories of people even keeping old kitty litter and even having dead pets in their junk. So that, yeah, that would be. But I guess if your pathways in the house are blocked, if there's pathways, or I don't know much about it, but is there one distinctive characteristic, Pam, that you would say?
You know, I have not looked at that chart in a while. I was just looking to see if I could find it real quick, but you know, of course, you know how Google is. I ended up with a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't what I was looking for. But Institute for Challenging Disorganization, and I do believe that I have it also on my resources at clutterfreenow.com. If not, if you can't find it, if you're Googling it and you can't find it, you know, feel free to shoot me an email and I can definitely put you, and it's just Pam@clutterfreenow.com. Here we go. The ICD clutter hoarding scale. I shall pop a link to that in the chat. And I did not know about the one by Randy Frost, but I would be interested in looking at that because he is considered one of the experts in this area. All righty then.
Great. Well, that about does it. And thank you.
So Lisa, how do we want to give people, are they able to save the chat?
Oh, yes. I just saved my own. If you go to the chat, open the chat, and you click the little 3 dots, and it says save chat. So that will save it to your computer.
Yeah, you hit save chat, and then you can, if you want to find it, you can click on show in Finder. And then I usually rename it from meeting saved chat to 21_01 for January 13. And then I guess you could call joy in your space.
Yeah, Spark Joy for our Sparkle program. So thank you so much, Pam. Pam can be found at Mindful Decluttering or clutterfreenow.com or org.
It's clutterfreenow.com.
Clutterfreenow.com. You can email her at info@clutterfreenow.com. I'm Lisa at silverspringtowncenter.com. Thank you again so much, Pam, for helping us spark joy in our space. We're so happy to reconnect with you and get your sage advice on this important topic that affects us all.